I've been thinking about all day. Today was my first day back to work in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah,
because I was in San Diego. I guess I did work one day.
Yeah.
And it was Friday.
Okay.
it was a tour.
Yeah, like worked.
But
you
then-
responded to 3
yeah,
emails.
Yeah, but like this was my first like grind day where it was like meetings,
Yeah.
emails, work projects, all this stuff. And I was like, I freaking love working. I think I realized that today. I was like, I love my life. I love my work. I love and I love the fact that my job is so exterior.
Yeah.
Like I love the fact that I'm just like driving around.
Yeah, you get
going
meet
from
with
thing to
people, do
thing,
things
like,
quick.
so I was just loving my day. I was
Yeah.
like, this is and I was like, wow, I legitimately feel so much rooted. Feel so much more rooted today than any other day. Like I prayed in the morning, went to work. Like it was just, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Because it's just been so flowy.
There's also
recently.
something about a restart. So like I think I was talking to Nina about that today, is like coming off of retreat and coming off of just time away.
Mm-hmm.
I like everything I was doing today, I was excited to do.
Yeah.
So like I wanted to respond to that. Like even when it got a little overwhelming, like because I was like, oh wow, that's a big number in my inbox. It was
Sure.
like not how it is whenever it's nonstop. Like there is just something to stepping away for a little while and then stepping back in that matters.
And you're just more driven.
Yeah, like Nina and I, you're right. Like Nina and I took a walk with Eliza today. Like I took prayer time today. Like I got in a sweat today. It's like, wow. I don't know if I've done all those things in a day in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and there's
personally.
a part of me that feels more rested. Like
Sure.
weirdly so, where I'm like, wow, okay, this is like we're moving some, because you can feel restless figuring out what you're going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like in a normal rhythm, you're like,
That's why vacations can be hard, right?
Yeah,
it's
literally.
like I think something.
That's
It's
so
I'm
true.
gonna say what Whitney said. It's not. I don't have a stat to point to it, but she said that usually it takes like 2 to 3 days into a vacation to actually start to reset, like to actually to not be busy.
That's
to not
my
be busy,
experience
to
for
not-
sure.
Yeah. But it's interesting that you say that, Noah, because it's like, well, to me, I'm not trying to say it's not obvious to you, but I'm like, yeah, when I hear that, it's you have purpose in your life.
yeah,
Right? Like there's
yeah,
there's something you're actually doing. And it's actually like you think about people that are retired. It's like if you don't have something you're doing in life,
Yeah.
you can feel purposeless. You could feel like you want to kill yourself. Like you can feel super. I'm serious. I'm serious. No, this is real. This, I mean, like in Nazi concentration camps, they would make them do meaningless work. You'd dig holes and you'd move dirt from one end to the other, and you'd fill the hole. And
no, there is that
purposelessness.
Like, yeah, you don't want to live your life on vacation. Like it is like so funny because when I'm going towards vacation, I'm like, can't wait for it. I get like 2 weeks into it if I have a real long one, and I'm just like, I really want to move a ball forward. Like, I don't know, like what, I don't even know if I care what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to clean out my truck after this vacation. It's like, and maybe that's not everyone's experience, but mine is for sure. Like, I know that when I'll get to a point of just enjoying things for enjoying it instead of like purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I got to get back to something.
yeah.
But you were on vacation for 2 weeks, so I'm really just talking trash about you.
I actually didn't want to come back at all. I was like, I could do like another week, but then today I'm like, I freaking love this crap.
Yeah.
But I think I could get. So this is the question: is because I think if I golfed every day, that would be enough purpose for me.
Really?
No,
Yeah.
That's just
No,
so
you
not
say that.
true for
I
me.
think if I go-
no, it just pulls so much
Like,
in me because I'm like, I
I-
am the farthest thing away from that.
I didn't even believe in retiring until I started golfing. I'm like, now I understand why people retire.
Chasing that next great shot.
Well, it's crazy
Literally.
too how so there's like this saying of like if you don't use it, you lose it. Like this idea of going from vacation, right? So I a couple weeks ago did a triathlon. Felt like I worked out really hard during that triathlon.
Yeah.
And the next week proceeded to go to the state fair in Iowa, which is you just go there to get type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the week
Deep-fried
didn't
corn.
really work out a whole lot. And then so today was my first day back in the gym, and I'm like, wow, that sucked. Like it was hard. And I couldn't do some of the same movements I did 2 weeks ago. And it's like amazing how
Incredible.
all things, unless cared for, trend toward disorder or chaos or like you lose like denigration.
Yeah. No, that's that. Yeah. There's no steady state.
No,
there's no steady
everything
state.
trends toward decay.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you want to do it like that's me with eating. Like I used to like just hammer like canes, chocolate covered pretzels.
Now you eat those naked wings.
Yeah, dude, I love them too.
Now I go to Shop 5 every day.
Yeah, right. But when I eat, I would like eat cans on Sunday, ice cream, whatever. And then but like the rest of the week, I'd eat really clean.
Yeah.
And then Monday, I wake up and I go back to eating clean. I'm like, I feel freaking and then you're like, it makes you want to do it less.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the week, I still want to go and eat the crap again. It's like you always want to return to the dirt.
God.
But
it is weird too that like you can do the same work on 2 different days and have completely different experiences of it. Like I'm just thinking about what both of you are saying, and it's like even like that workout that I did 2 weeks ago before I hit the fair and stuff. I did the exact same workout.
Yep.
I did it on 2 different days, and my response to it was completely different. Or like I had this many emails, and I had this many emails 2 weeks ago, and my response was completely different. Mm-hmm. Like in this one, I was like, go get it. My attitude was towards like conquering and completion. And then it was like towards distraction and like depletion, you know? I wonder if like, I wonder if that's I don't know. I wonder if that's always just a lens thing. Like I wonder if that's just like what you have on your mind, or like what you guys are saying. There's something to a rhythm in life, right? There is something to like everything leading unto the next thing more completely. So there's a reason that each week we should be intentional about rest. Yeah. Like there's a reason each week that we should be intentional about getting after it too. Yeah. Because the getting after it allows you to appreciate rest, and rest allows you to get after it, you know?
Yeah.
But
that's interesting.
It's good to be with you guys.
It's good to be with you, Brad.
I'm kind of pumped. So we've been talking about having a podcast for like years, maybe. And I think it's just cool that it's happening now. So I think for those listening, we're recording for the first time Modern Man, and we had conversations that went back and forth on like, what should we do with the podcast? Why does it even matter to throw another podcast out when everyone's doing podcasts? And we really just decided, because we wanted to get together and talk about the things we always talk about, and we might as well do it while recording it to see if other people were thinking about those things too. And I think the best thing to do for like this first recording is just chat a little bit about why we're doing what we're doing. So I know that when we first talked about Modern Man, it's something that was on my heart. You two were thinking about doing podcasts, and we just decided, why don't we try this thing together? And so I think we should just start with why Modern Man. Like, why is it worth our time getting together and having the conversations we're going to have over however long this podcast lasts? Like, why is it worth having conversations that push the ball forward, that wrestle with what masculinity means, that look at the world and try to assess what's our best move forward? So I think if we dive into that could probably be pretty interesting. But why Modern Man? Maybe for you, why Modern Man in the world today? Like what do we see that we're trying to go after?
Yeah, I mean, the world's screwed, dude. Like, seriously, it feels that way at least. Yeah. And at least going to the point that I was talking about of, if you don't care for something, it tends toward decay, right? It tends toward destruction. It tends toward chaos. And I think that's our world right now. The world has not been taken care of. The world has not been stewarded by the person, the people who it was supposed to be stewarded by, which is man. I believe that masculinity has a particular call to steward and care for the world, and the world has gone to hell in a lot of ways. Culture is chaos, especially in the West. It's absolutely insane. And so I think, at least for me, that's I want to make my life a contribution. I want to do something. I believe that we men can change a tide. I believe that we can inspire hearts. I believe that we can call people to do more with their lives, and to help reverse that tide a little bit, to do something, make a ripple.
Yeah, something that aside from complaining, because I think so often it's like, I don't know if anyone doesn't see that the world has like something going sideways right now, right? But most people are like, yeah, isn't it crazy how the world's going sideways? Yeah. It's like, yeah, it is crazy. Like, I guess this is what we have, and it's like just so uninspiring to complain about it. It's like, no, what are we going to do about it? Like, how do we move the ball forward? So I love what you're saying. Like, men have a particular call to steward what's been given to us, and we have to do it better.
And that's it's a story of heroes, right? It's like everyone who's unimportant in a story looks at the world or looks at a situation and be like, yeah, that sucks. Can't do anything about it. But the hero is the one who says that chaos, I can go into that chaos and I can tame that chaos. I can go into that and I can be the victor over that circumstance. And I think like that's why something like this is so necessary, is because men need to know that they're not passive bystanders to life, but there's something that you carry. Like we carry something that can actually go into the chaos of the world and say, yeah, people might not like me for saying politically incorrect statements, or people might not like me for trying to be a man in a world that wants me to be a woman, but I can do something here and now that puts a freaking stake in the ground and say, I'm going to be the man that I'm made to be. And in that I'm going to change lives, because that's what all of history shows, right? People remember men like Hercules, or remember men like Theodore Roosevelt, or remember men like Abraham Lincoln, is because they're the men in their generation who could look at the chaos and say, I'm not going to be a victim to that. I'm going to go in and change it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I've been reflecting on is I don't think... So I used to be pretty anti creating any sort of content when it comes to the podcast world, because I'm like, no one needs more content. And I'm like, no one needs another podcast to listen to. And I think I still feel that way. What changed my mind was I was just thinking about it and I was like, wow, I think, and it comes honestly from just me doing a lot of traveling and bouncing around, and me seeing a lot of other communities across the country, me just being in different places with other men, is it's this reality that what we're doing here is what we did this literally 2 days ago when we were hanging out in Mohican. Like, this is a normal reality for us. We talk and we just BS and talk about all kinds of things. And sometimes we BS and sometimes we go somewhere, and we usually BS and then go somewhere. But we always are going somewhere. We're pushing a ball forward. We're talking about a concept that matters. And I've just been blown away. I've been traveling for the last few weeks, and what I notice is that there are a lot of men who don't have this, right? They don't just, like, I've taken it for granted for so long that I have dudes that care about, that are fun, but care about things.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was hanging out with my, some family members, some friends, and I'm like across the country, and I'm just like, wow, these dudes are begging to talk. They're begging to hang out, to like talk about something that matters. And I'm not telling anyone to stop like messing around. That's mostly what I do. But I am saying, like, I feel a hunger for people to talk about things that matter. And so it's less for me about, we're just recording conversations we have. This is a very light lift for us. This is not hard for us. But what I hope it does is I hope it starts a conversation, or rather a desire for somebody across the country, any man across the country, to take action, to just get a group of dudes together and talk about things, and then go up towards things that matter, towards things that are actually on their heart that they want to talk about, and really normalize the reality that's okay for men to not just joke around the whole time, to actually have a real conversation, to actually talk about things that matter, because they're thinking it, they're experiencing it, but they don't do it because of a lot of times fear. So hopefully what this does is just normalize what we know as normal across the country, across the world, wherever. Because I think it's just, that's my desire. It's even, we'll talk about cool things. We'll talk about great content. What I want more than anyone else, or what I want more than anything else, is for men across the world, especially our age, late 20s, early 30s, to just say, this is probably a good thing to do. And yes, you can throw jokes in there. Yes, you can have fun with it. But it's also good sometimes to just talk about things that are on your heart, things that you desire, things that you want for yourself, things that you carried so much shame about, but that you actually don't need to. Like, that's where I want to go. And so I hope we start that conversation. I hope this is just the beginning and a fire to normalize real conversations.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that, because I that was the very first thing I thought when you actually opened with your like wrestle with even doing another podcast, is like, I don't think people need more content. I do think they need more conversation. Like, the reality is, we leave all of the really meaningful things. We just, we leave it in the hypothetical, or we ask a question and we leave it rhetorical. It's just like, why aren't men the way they should be? And then it's just like, it just ends as a question, you know? Or like, why is the world the way that it is? Isn't it a shame? And it's like, but don't leave it there, right? Like, conversation is what gets people into, like we have so many conversations where we're in disagreement, but I leave it and I'm like, man, Noah's perspective on that or Sam's perspective on that's allowing me to see the thing that I'm called to steward and to see it from a different angle so that I can actually attend to it in a more holistic way. And I think that's the reason that I want to do this, is because I value conversation and I value conversations that matter. And it's actually funny, when I first had the idea for this podcast, I had a monthly event that I actually ran out of my apartment with my wife, Nina. We were just like talking after we got married. How do we want to make impact? And I was like, I want to have a night a month at our apartment where I can just bring guys in. So if every month on that night you want to go out with some gals, and I'll bring as many guys as will come to my apartment. And it started out like the first time we had like 30, and then we had 40, and then we had 50, and we never really had less than 20 guys that would show up. And the only way that it was like advertised is come and have a conversation that matters. And the way that it ran is we just came in, we all brought a drink of choice. We kind of shot the breeze for a while, had some fun. Like we would literally start probably 30 minutes into it, because we're just like, it's good to be together. And then once you start, it was just, here's a question. And I would propose a question each month, and we would break into groups and discuss it. And then we get all back together as a large group and discuss it. Wow. And all of a sudden guys were just like coming back saying like, this is my like primary form of male community. Like this is my primary place of formation and masculinity. I'm like, that can't be true. Like that can't be true. Yeah. This is once a month in an apartment. Like that can't be. And the more that I heard it, I'm like, it is true. Like this, like you're saying, Noah, like what we get to experience really by no merit of ours, is rich. And the conversations that we get to have impacted my life deeply. And so if anyone that listens to this podcast can get an ounce of what I've gotten out of the conversations we've had over the last decade, I think that we'll be spending our time about as well as we could. And so, yeah, it's not to me about content. It's not about being the experts in a field. Like all of us are learning, growing, figuring out what it means to be the man we're called to be, figuring out how our temperaments and skill sets fit into masculinity. But we are men that are trying to do that. And I think those type of men having a conversation gives, like you said, permission for other people too.
Well, and what I was laughing at when you were just talking about that, because I went to like half of those. And the funniest thing about Bros and Brews is what it was called.
Dude, I was trying not to give the title. You know that
I'm
too.
Sorry.
You know I would have.
Sorry.
No, you're not at all, because you know that
I came up with it. No, I didn't come up with it.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. But it wasn't the best branding.
But
it wasn't my best branding.
The thing that made me laugh about that, actually, though, I never realized this until we're talking about it right now, is we never found an answer to anything, and we never wanted to stop talking. That was so interesting to me. I was like, we never. Those I can think about those nights when we like climbed up to like the 45th story of Brad's apartment, and we would be in there, and then we would like it would be late, and these people have kids. Like some of these people have kids, some of these people are like not doing anything with their life. But
like no,
like me. But the thing that I noticed is no one. It always came down to like 2 to 3 parties of people that were carrying a different thought, and it would be 10, 11. Like your wife's just trying
in the parking lot. Yeah, because my wife had to
we'd be
home.
in the parking lot afterwards. And it was 2 to 3 parties that just kept talking. And those 3 parties probably stayed where they were at, and they never wanted to stop. And I just thought that was so unique. I'm like, these dudes, including myself, can't get enough of this, even though they're disagreeing. And that's like the opposite of everything. And you'll see that like, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be in 3 parties sometimes. We're going to be in like all gang up with Sam, mostly against you.
Yeah, mostly against Brad.
But no,
he stated it too confidently.
But I think like that's the thing is like, oftentimes we tense up just at the thought of disagreement as men. Like we tense up at the thought of conflict, which is appropriate. Like we should tense up a little bit because we're like, we might fight, right? Yeah. But like the truth is, it's okay to disagree, and it's okay that we're going to go at each other from different angles. We have trust built amongst each other, and we're going to go at each other in different angles, and we're going to disagree. But what I hope everyone sees is that we never stop talking, right? And I hope we can continue that.
But and this is all good. I agree. I want to start a conversation. But I also like, I've also had too many conversations where it's like, yeah, that was great. And then nothing happens.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, I actually want a movement to start.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't just for me about like talking and theorizing and philosophizing about things that need to be talked about. Right. Because there's like, we will talk about stuff that is culturally taboo. Right. We're going to go places that I think very few people are willing to go to and to talk about and to explore. But I think even more than that, it's about starting with, this thing's called the modern man movement. Like, I want to see this thing actually grab the heart of a man and not just say, hey, you're cool doing whatever you've been doing and just like getting a hype moment for an hour and then going back to your life. No, I want this to grab you by the nutsack and say, I'm going to change my freaking life. Like, I'm going to change the way that I go about my work. I'm going to change the way I'm going to go about my relationships. I'm going to go about the way that I change my mindset. Like, this has got to actually shift something, right? It's not just about talking, it's about doing something.
Yeah. And not to just be speakers of the word or hearers of the word, but doers. Yeah, I think there is something too that but that is like, man, no matter like what religious perspective or philosophical perspective you come in with, like the word does become incarnate. Like, there's a reason that conversation leads unto like again, like take out all of your preconceived notions, but just like when you speak something into existence and then you chase after it, it manifests. Like that comes to be. Yeah. And so like, you're right. It's antithetical to who we are to have conversations that matter and then do nothing.
Right.
It's antithetical. Like, it doesn't make sense. And we know that because we've all had those times where we're like, man, that was awesome. Yeah. Like, we've listened to that video on YouTube or we've listened to that podcast on Spotify and we've been like, I'm going to start these 3 things tomorrow. And then it's a year later and we've done none of them. Yeah. And it's like, obviously that isn't what we're called to do. So how do we like have conversations that disagree, that might not come to resolution, but still leave with like, yet what challenged me here, I'm going to implement tomorrow. Yeah. I'm going to implement on my ride home. Like, I'm going to take Sam's perspective and wrestle with it. I'm going to take note and like actually wrestle with it, not just like think about it, but like, try to put it in.
Well, I think that's what's fun about this is oftentimes what I'd go home with in those conversations we would have at your apartment was, wow, the only way I'm like, we're theorizing a lot. We're talking about all these things. We would do like a takeaway. I feel like
we would. Yeah,
did you have like a clever name for that, or was it?
Yeah. What's up?
I said, do you have a clever name for that?
No.
But we would have.
I stopped at Bros and Brews. My branding limit was there.
But we would have some sort of like takeaway. And one of the things I realized was like, wow, these 3 parties are all pretty smart, and yet we're all disagreeing, which means probably the way we're going to figure out which one was right was whichever one gets walked out. Right? Like,
and works.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you
so
put it
like
into play.
What you're saying, Sam, like theory only stays in the air, right? It doesn't go anywhere. But when we take that theory and we start to walk it out, that's when we know what works and what doesn't. Like that is life. And so I think that's another piece. Like the men aren't having serious conversations. That's just reality. Yeah. The serious conversations they have are about out there things like politics.
Yeah. Fantasy football.
We're just getting lost in lack of reality, right? Like, I think that's the thing too, is one of the biggest plagues of our generation, I think, in the world right now is whether it's social media or the news or whatever, it's this idea of living in fantasy land, right? So many people fantasize about, video, like I play video games. I'm not saying video games are evil, but there is a reality of when you're living in fantasy land, you are not living in reality. And for most of the history of mankind, people lived in reality. You didn't wake up thinking, oh, it'd be really nice to think about retirement. Oh, it'd be really nice to think about this video game I'm going to play later. It was, I need to figure out how I'm going to eat today. Or I need to figure out how I'm going to stop this attacking tribe from killing me. Or I need to figure, like, I think about the 2 examples that came to mind while you guys were chatting were actually like in ancient Rome and ancient Greece, right? Like the idea of the agora where men would come together and talk.
Yeah.
And they would like figure out.
Argue,
truth.
debate.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I think about the different councils throughout the church. Like Peter and Paul wanted to punch each other.
Yeah.
I think about the framers of the Declaration of Independence and the forefathers of America. It's like they disagreed.
Yeah.
But it was all onto something. It was about shifting a reality. And I think that that's what is so cool about what we're doing here, right? It's like this is actually not just talk. It's about shifting reality.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. And I also like just the concept of the man's role in society at large. So like we're talking about, men aren't having serious conversations. And we're also talking about and the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And it's like those aren't mutually exclusive phenomenon. Like when we take in the data points, what we're seeing is because we're not figuring out as men where we're called to take hold of something, where we're called to move and act, we're beginning to see that which was once understood as masculinity, what was once understood as the role of being a man, has been completely lost. Like literally in the world today, and I can see this in all stratas of the world. We've gotten to the point where it's like we just say men and women are different because they have different body parts, and it's like, well, if that's the case, then wouldn't I just be the other thing if I lost certain body parts? And it's like it's not illogical. It's the natural derivative of what we've let it fall to. We just define ourselves off of the physical thing I can see that's different in me than my wife.
Right.
And it's like that's just not how any person in the first 1900 years of like the common era, like AD, like since Christ, has looked at it. Mm-hmm. And in the last 100 years, we've gotten into this, like, God is dead. Let's invent ourselves. This is the thing. So I think there's a shape to that. And I wonder, like, I wonder if we can talk a little bit about what we want to do in the podcast. So, like we're not just wanting to be people that have conversations and don't do anything about it, but we do want to have conversations that matter, and we do want to have them in a way that answers like universal questions. So one of the things we're bringing into the recording every time we show up here is just the reality that if you asked anyone in the world, it doesn't matter how left they are or how right they are, if you ask them, are men who they should be, their answer would be no. Their answer would be no. If they're being honest, they're going to say no. The following question would be, then what should they be? To which I have heard very few people have a good answer. And so I think the reason so few people have a lack of response there is because a certain sect of people that answer that question that way think to themselves, well, because masculinity used to be something and it's nothing anymore, and we need to rediscover everything from the past. And then the other group is like, no, everything masculinity is needs totally redeemed, even the stuff that was in the past. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, well, they're both wrong because they're both setting up shop on extremes. Whereas in the middle, there's something like, no, where we find ourselves now is we're lost, and we're lost because there was things we had as men that need to be rediscovered. And there's things that we still have as men, but that aren't as they ever should have been, and they need redeemed. Mm-hmm. And so in this podcast format, we're going to be going after just aspects of masculinity that need rediscovered and aspects of masculinity that need redeemed. And I wonder if you guys can speak to that a little bit. I think I just laid out kind of the framework for it, right? Like you have like people that are like, if we could just go back to the 30s when all men were men. And then you have the people that are like in the year 2039, all men might just so happen to finally be the men they were made to be. And it's like, no, both of those seem off, and they seem off because it's just not nuanced, and it's easy, and it's quick, and nothing that matters is ever easy and quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think all these things are going to be found exactly like you said, Brad, right? Like virtue. I think about virtue, for example. So the philosophers would say that virtue is the means between two extremes, right? So if you want to bend the bar back and say, yeah, and I agree, like there's, you think about the greatest generation, the generation that came back after World War II. There's some amazing things about that generation,
yep.
Right? Some grit, some ability to go through some of the hardest circumstances throughout world history and to be able to get okay on the other side of it. I also know there was a lot of abuse and a lot of alcoholism and a lot of like broken marriages and a lot of things that I don't really want in my life. But then I also don't want,
and that we shouldn't want in our lives.
Yeah. No. And so to be able to look at this moment in history and to be like, okay, what can we learn from our past? And then what can we look in a myopic view of today and to say, Yeah, there was something here that like the masses agreed with or thought was cool, but there's something there that's actually not right.
Yeah, it's got to be tweaked.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even now, like, past, future, but present, there's still a lot of good. Like, there's still a lot of good left. And while we see the bad consistently, there's so much good that's happening. And I think we can look at, and that's always how my mind has worked. And me in particular, like I see a sliver of good, and like my family gives me so much crap for this, but like there are certain like family members. Somebody just recently like got married in the last couple of years, and one of my cousins got married, and there's a good amount of family members that like give crap to this person that this other person, I'm keeping it really general, that this other person married. And I'm like, I freaking love this person. Yeah. Like I love this person. And they're like, wait, what? Like, why? And I explain it, and I always see the sliver in
the eternal optimist.
Yes, exactly. Like I always see the sliver, and I think we need to take that sliver and look at it. And for a second, because it's just this absolute game of like, on this side we're just going to attack, on that side we're just going to attack. It's like nothing gets done. And so I love it. It's not just the past, it's not just the future, but it's the now. Like there's something great about the athlete that may suck in his personal life but does something great on the court. Mm-hmm. There's something great about the politician who does a lot of sucky things in their personal life but makes a good policy. Like there's something on every side of the aisle. There's good, and people are made good. Mm-hmm. So there's something good there, and like not just something good in a person, but also like so many good things in objects or things that we use to get pleasure, right? Like I have served like volunteered on many retreats in my life, like helped lead retreats for like Catholic retreats. And one of the things that you always hear like a speaker say is like, hey, 12-year-old boys, like video games aren't going to make you happy. And my friends and I joke a lot of times, we're like they made us pretty happy. Like, they made us pretty freaking happy.
Yeah.
But we never addressed like, there was so much like understanding when we started to like, when we would lead these retreats and we'd start to address the good things in the things we're telling them not to do.
Yeah.
Like when we would tell them like, because we would just be like, partying's bad. It's like, well, what? No, I love partying.
Yeah.
I freaking love partying. You know what's bad is when I go to a party and I feel so uncomfortable that I have to get wasted in order to have fun.
Yeah.
That's what's bad.
I have to be someone else to feel comfortable.
But hanging out with people and like having a blast and having a drink or two, that's fun. Like video games. You know what's bad is when I don't want to go outside and I want to hide.
I isolate
myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's really good? Competition and camaraderie around playing a game where you're competing against each other. Like we have to talk about the good things that are in the things that we've defined as bad, because the reason in which so many people walk away from serious conversations, walk away from the faith, walk away from the important things in life is because they're told that everything else that they might care about is worthless, meaningless, and they shouldn't do it because it's bad. Mm-hmm. And it's like that doesn't attract anyone. The whole reason I'm living the life I'm living is because I saw people who actually appreciated the things that I appreciated. And for the first time, it was somebody on that aisle saying what I was doing wasn't bad. There may have been some bad things around it, but some of it was good. And so I think that's a big part, is we're not saying we need to create something brand new. We're not saying that we have something that no one else has. We're just pointing to good things and saying, okay, if we take that and redeem it, this is going to be awesome. If we take that ancient thing and rediscover it in this time, it's going to be awesome. We're not creating anything new per se. We're shedding light on the good.
We're just amalgamating it all. It's just bringing it all together, because like all those pieces of good, when brought together, become a whole that is good.
Exactly.
And there is a fear that I recognize in myself, but I definitely see in the world of maintaining that sight for the good, or maintaining nuance. Like I experience this all the time, is like I tend to want to be the person that gives credit to the two sides for what they're thinking in a given argument or a given debate. Like I'm not big on encampments. I don't like labeling myself like I'm all behind this guy or I'm 0% behind that guy, because and it's so tempting because it feels so good, because you have all these people behind you that are like, yeah, absolutely nothing about the other thing. And I'm like,
it's a box.
It's
we like the box.
And we don't like, because we as men and as humans are not made to be alone, we get very nervous when we don't find a camp to fit into.
Yes.
Like whenever I'm standing in the middle looking at that camp and going, there's actually some good things there. And I look at that camp and I'm like, there's more good things in that camp, but there's still some good things in that camp. What ends up happening is we'll focus on, I think like a quick aside on that, like what I was going to say is we'll focus on the things that are bad about me saying the other thing is good. And then I'll be fearful that I won't get invited into that encampment. But I think it was Reagan who said, a person who agrees with you 80% of the time is a friend, not a 20% enemy.
Yep.
And that's a good word. Yeah, like that's a good word. Like it's, but we focus the other way around. We're like, you agree with me on 80, but that's 20%. So you're my enemy.
Right.
It's like, you're never going to find a friend then. Like you're never going to find someone that can truly be on your team unless you all fall to an ideology together. And that's where it gets incredibly dangerous and weird, not nuanced and weird.
Very
weird. It's like, no, I want to wrestle. And like like there's a reason that us three are doing a podcast together. Our worldviews are very similar. Mm-hmm. We have the majority of things in common. We have plenty of things that we disagree with vehemently. Like, for example, like you guys don't understand that LeBron James is the best basketball player to ever walk the face of the planet.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
But no, I really do think those are the sorts of things that I want to be involved in. As silly as that is, even that. And for those listening, like we're in a text that literally like sparks up every like 6 weeks about
or 6 hours.
Yeah, or 6 hours. Yeah, depending on the season. Like it's literally just entitled MJ or LeBron. And I've often asked myself, like, why am I still in this? There's a couple like other group texts that I'm in that are
especially when we prove you wrong.
Yeah, like, especially when my arguments are just so inferior. Yeah. But it's because that's good for me. It's because it's good for me to constantly come back to something I actually believe that's different than the people that I enjoy being around. Mm-hmm. And it's really good for me because there's times where I will get so mad at Noah or Sam or anyone else in the text. And I'm sure they get mad at me. And it's like, that's good for me though. Like it is good for me to live in a nuanced place. And hopefully we can do that a little bit. But yeah, I want to really honor what you're saying too, Sam, because I think as we have these conversations, we're not just going to be conversing, right? We're not just going to be hitting a story from a rediscover or redeem angle. We will be doing that, but not only that, like we're going to hopefully over the course of it be listening to one another. And at the end, we're going to state a principal objective or a PO. And really that's going to be the way that we kind of land the plane on every episode. And what we'll try to do in that section is actually reflect on how we did with the previous episode's PO and be really honest. Because that's another thing that I think we can probably agree to is like, it has never done me wrong when I'm really honest about where I'm at instead of pretending like I'm in a place that I desire to be or hiding from the fact that I didn't. But like starting that section off with, here's how I did at the last one. Yeah. I either completely forgot about it or I did it every day or I did some mix of it or here was the fruit of it. And let's celebrate and challenge each other in that because I think any brotherhood has to celebrate and challenge. If you're only doing one, you're missing something. But then we will state, hey, we've been listening. Here's something I want to do between now and next recording. And maybe speak a little bit to that. I know that was important for all of us to get into because we don't want it to, like you said, Noah, we want this to be conversational. We don't want it to feel like, hey, here, come join this like a very rigid structure thing. But like you said, Sam, if we don't put something into play, what are we doing? And it's not something we're going to tell the people listening, hey, you should go do this. And then we record a little bit later and go, we never even thought about that again, but we told you to do it. It's like, we're each going to state, this is what I'm doing because I heard this here and I need to do this because of it. Maybe, just speak a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, this is like one of the compelling reasons for me to do this podcast was because of the idea of like, I mean, you guys know this, I've been super inspired by Theodore Roosevelt's speech of the man in the arena, like that idea of
it's hanging outside in these.
Yeah, it is being willing to be the man who says, to hell with what the world thinks, to hell with what the people around me think. I'm going to do what I know is right. And I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to put my neck out there. I'm going to get scarred up. I'm going to get bloodied. I'm going to fall down and get hurt, but I'm going to get up and try again. And I think that is why one, it's important that we don't just theorize and why we don't just talk up here, but we actually are going to share our life. We're going to share the struggles, the heartaches, the victories, the glory, the defeat. But particularly the principal objective, it's like, yeah, I don't want to just have this moment where I'm like jazzed up and inspired about something. I want to go and actually do something with it.
Yep.
And to actually go into the battle, to go into the arena with it. So I think that I think it's going to be something that is going to lead to the transformation we want to see. That's where the rubber's going to meet the road. And I've already seen it in my own life. Like I think that's the primary reason of like I don't beat myself up every time that I don't get up to my alarm clock, but I still set the standard of, I'm in this group chat that we jokingly call ourselves the hardest men on campus. It's called the HMOCs. You guys aren't in it. You can join it if you want at some point.
Yeah.
I'm the hardest.
Well, I mean, it's not true.
I don't know.
It's not true to its title if I'm not in it, but
yeah.
no.
Well, so we get up, I get up 4:45 every day and I pray for an hour and I go and work out for an hour. And it's not like those are the things that make you a hard man, but being able to do something hard, right? And to be able to say, I am not going to succumb to the idea that I'm too tired to get my ass out of bed.
Yeah.
I'm not going to succumb to the idea that I'm too sore to go work out. I'm not going to succumb to the idea that I'm too sinful to get up and pray tomorrow. No, like I'm going to align myself with an ideal, with a standard, and despite my circumstance, I'm going to hold that as a standard.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so I think
despite or in spite of my circumstance, like I'm going to fight.
Right,
like
fight
actively.
Yep. So I think that's why this is important, is to be able to say, I'm actually not going to just follow the whims of my life. I'm going to carry my own weather with me, and I'm going to say that's what I want.
Yeah, yeah. The thermometer idea. Like I'm not going to be the temperature of the room.
Yep.
I'm going to set the temperature of the room in my life. And for those listening, and even us in this room, because I've heard the man in the arena a lot, but just really quick, right? It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. That's right. Like when at the end of my day, I examine my life at the end of every day. I just take some time before I go to sleep. At my best, I'll sit on my bedside. At the busiest, tiredest days, it's like my head's on the pillow and I'm thinking in my head. But it's like, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking, like, where did I have victories and where did I have defeats today? And I hope to God that the majority of my day was victories and defeats,
right? And
not just like, yep, this was just kind of an indifferent lapse of time. It's like, no, like where did I do what I should have been doing? Where didn't I do what I should have been doing? How can tomorrow I do more of this and less of that? And like, and that's changed my life. And to your point, it's, and we're all in different seasons. Like we're all at some stage in what he's talking about there, but fighting for that matters. And I think that's huge.
Yeah. In a different light, the PO for me, so a mentor of ours, gosh, at this point, it would have been 6-7 years ago. We were having a fire with him, hanging out, and he just kind of said this statement. He's like, "You guys know your rockets?" And I'm like, "I don't know what the frick that means." Like, sure. Like, yeah. He's like, "No, you're rockets. Like, you've been given everything you need to be great. Like, you have the raw talent. You have the raw gifts to be great. Not necessarily for any other reason other than you're a human. You're a man. You're a person who, you've been given a lot of good things." But he said the one thing, and this is what he meant by the rocket, he's like, a rocket that just sits on the ground doesn't do anything. It's not a dangerous weapon. It doesn't do its job. It doesn't accomplish its objective. But he said once it's placed into a rocket launcher, then it has direction. Then it can go to where it needs to go to accomplish its objective. And so the point he was making, he said, you guys need to spend your time figuring out how to build your launcher, because you're a rocket, and when you get set into a launcher, you can go somewhere and accomplish what you need to accomplish. And when he said that to me, that just shifted the way I thought about life. And what it did was it gave me in the midst of the chaos, I have something to hold on to that can launch me forward, right? Because chaos only sucks when you're sucked up in it and you're consumed by it.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't suck when it's around you, but you know where you're going.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I'm really freaked out if there's a severe storm and I'm lost and I don't know where I'm going. I'm a little less freaked out when I know, okay, I'm going this direction and I know that in 20 minutes I'm going to be there, even though it looks like my car is going to get freaking
But if you
twisted.
didn't know where you were going and you were driving through that same
thing, you're freaked out because you're like, I don't know where to go. Do I pull over? What do I do?
Yeah.
But when you have a location in a place you're going, you're like, okay, this is freaky, but I know if I take a left up here, I'm going to be able to get away from the storm a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this ability to, because there's direction, it becomes a little less freaky. And I think with a rocket launcher, that's the idea, is like everything else can be happening around you, but you know where you're going. And it brings, for me, as I've implemented this into my life, it's like brought a ton of my anxiety down. Because I'm like, look, today, I just got this phone call from my family. This family member happened to this family member, and my friend is pissed at me for something I said to him today. And at work, I got yelled at for no reason. And you're like, you now have 5 things today that you have to fix in your head. And in the relief of knowing I have to fix 0 of those, because if I stay consistent with this one thing I committed to, I'll get there.
Yeah,
I have time. Everything's gonna be okay. But I did commit to one thing, and when I do that one thing, it's getting me there. If that's freaking 50 push-ups before you go to bed every day, if that's a plank, if that's putting your dishes away, if that's making your bed in the morning, you have something that you're holding on to. And so all the chaos can happen in that day. Yes, it's going to suck the next day when you have to go talk to your boss because they yelled at you. Yes, it's going to be hard. That family thing's not going to disappear. But you did something that you could control in your environment and in your setting to better yourself, which means that those situations will never stop coming. But in 10 years, if you keep committing to that thing you said you were going to do, then that situation that comes, you're ready for. Like that's what we see in the military, right? Like I have a family member who's doing some awesome things in the military, and he's like unwavering in the midst of chaos because he knows where he's going. Right. And it's not that he was trained for that exact scenario, but he was trained in so many other things that he has a tool belt to use in that scenario. And so there's a calm in the midst of chaos that comes when we take our principle objective and we live it out on the daily. And so that crap just pumps me up.
And it narrows your, because it narrows your focus.
Exactly.
You can't focus on everything. Like that's one of the biggest issues we have today is we focus on everything. And by focusing on everything, you focus on nothing. And I think like that's why the book, Make Your Bed, I literally think it's called Make Your Bed. It changed my life because the whole premise of the book is that if you make your bed in the morning, it doesn't matter where the day goes. You won. You won because the first thing you do it and you win.
Yes.
And everything else could literally go completely sideways, but you won. And I think that people find that in a variety of different ways. Yeah, that's it. Make your bed. And it was one of those books that was going around our men's household, and I picked it up and it changed my life. And the principal objective is very similar to that for me. One of the verses that really changed my life in scripture, it's ultimately Jesus speaking to just some of his friends in a town that he would visit pretty often. And it's just because it's one of those like scenarios you can find yourself in. Like I think any good scripture does. It allows you to put yourself in it. And he says that the person is anxious and worried about many things, but there's need of only one thing. And like, if that's not the existence of modern man, like anxious and worried about many things, but there's need of only one thing. And like figuring out day to day, like what is that one thing? And like, and narrowing your focus, figuring out your priorities. Who is Brad supposed to be right now? And to whom is he supposed to give that effort? And like, and figuring that out has just changed my life. And so having that focus built into this show will be awesome. Cause then I can just hitch my wagon to that. Rather I can like, how am I trying to say this? Like I can use that as a piece of what I'm already doing. So it's like what I'm hearing here, I know what I'm already trying to do in my life. I want to give more concerted effort here because that's going to help me get closer. And because of this conversation, I'm going to go in that direction. And every single time I've done that, I think like just in my natural too, I'm very extroverted, so I want to be involved in everything everyone's doing. So it's very difficult for me. And I think that's why it's been so beneficial, is because I'll hear someone say something like, yeah, I've been golfing once a week. I'm like, I want to do that. And another person, I've worked out every day. I want to do that. And we have this. And eventually you're just like, I can't do anything. Yep. I can't do anything because I can't do everything. I can't do anything. And some people I'm sure that are listening fall to that too. I'm sure there's others that are different that are like, no, I have to be motivated to do something, but it doesn't matter, because the moment you declare something, again, when you speak something and you pursue it, it manifests like that. It becomes what it declared to be. So I think that's why it's really important for me. I wonder like, I'm trying to put my hand on like this theme that I've been hearing. What are you guys hoping, like, through these conversations? What are you hoping that if someone's listening to this first episode and they're like, hey, I want to come back and I want to listen. I want to stay a part of this conversation. Like, what are you hoping they get? Like if you could put that into your own words, because I think all of us will answer that differently. But as we're talking, I can feel in all of our hearts, it's like, anyone that's going to continue to listen to this, like, we don't want it to waste your time. And we want you to be able to move forward and maybe like hopes for people who tune in, who listen, who, stay in relationship with us.
Yeah. I mean, I think that wherever you're at, that's awesome, but that's not where we want you to stay, right? That's not where I want to stay. And I think, so, I mean, I definitely, and there's more to the book than just the cover. It's a very, you know what I mean? Yeah, sure. So, I mean, because like when I hear the idea of like, if you just make your bed, you're golden, it's like, no.
No. Sorry.
You're not. Yeah. But so
oversimplification can hurt sometimes.
Right. What I'm saying is, so find your starting point, but then I want this to be a journey that like any man can start, but you're getting 1% better every freaking day. Yep. And so every day, if you grow and you have a pattern for your life and you're saying, I'm not going to just like focus in on this one thing and master it. It's no, I want to actually like grow. Like again, weightlifter here. So it's like this idea of adding weight, tracking. Okay, a few weeks later, I'm going to add more weight. It's being able to rip the muscle tissue and to be able to heal the muscle tissue and to get stronger. So this to be able to be something where we don't just like come and have a conversation, but we're saying through the real formula we're going to give you through this of being able to dick around with us for a little bit, to have some fun, but then also to learn to rediscover the heart of man, to redeem the heart of man, to have a tangible thing that you can look to and say, this is my North Star. Like, this is the thing I'm going to fixate on until the next couple weeks, until the next episode comes out, where you have real men that you're not looking to, and we're not trying to say we're the solution. We're trying to be a voice in the wilderness right now. Like there are too many people that are just speaking loads of crap in the world right now, and to have brothers to journey with you and to say, this is where we are. This is where we're headed. Let's journey together, because I'm sure as heck have not arrived. I'm a work in progress, but I'm not going to give up, right? And whatever we're talking about, you can be damn sure that I'm going to apply it to my life, that I'm going to hold true to it, and we're going to journey together with these people.
I was getting the I was getting the thought of like of a cornerstone when you were saying that, right? Because a cornerstone is just a block until you build something on it. But the cool thing about a cornerstone is even when the wall that you were building on it falls, the cornerstone's still there. And so you're right. That book, Make Your Bed What It Is, it's like, it's that first block. Everything else can fall, but you can build again.
Right.
And we're going to build something great and, with our lives. That's at least, what we should aim for. That's the purpose driven, but.
Yeah. I mean, I think in 10 years, I want us to have 0 listeners. I think that's my goal. I think in 10 years, I want a man to see this podcast and say, I'm already doing that. That's already something. I'm already part of that.
Yeah, conversations happen in my life all the time.
Because I want there to be, I said at the beginning, I'll say it again. My desire is for men to not take themselves too seriously, but start taking themselves a little bit more serious, right? Yeah. Like that they would actually sit, that they would have these conversations, that they would get past the crap and be able to actually have tough conversations that then lead to them making a decision or doing something that they never thought they would do. And I just know story after story in my own family. Like my mom's massive, she's from a massive family. She's one of 12. And I've just seen my own family members like, man, they did a lot of stupid stuff growing up. Man, they messed around a lot. And in their season of life right now, they're, 40s, 50s, 30s. the minute that they just literally started having conversations with dudes, their life changed. Mm-hmm. Like it just did, because we're made to understand what we're going through similar things, whether we think we are or not.
Yeah.
And to be able to talk about those things, be a little serious, have a lot of fun, but just take each other a little bit like a little bit more serious. I know for a fact that changes things. And so in 10 years, I would love for this to have us just to like be doing this and talking to ourselves, because literally men are like, oh, that I already have that back home. Mm-hmm. And that's my dream.
Well, that's the heart of empowerment. Replace yourself, right? Replace yourself. Because every time you replace yourself, there's going to be something new for you. And exactly. I love that. And I love yours too, Sam. I guess a bit of a different angle is like, I just hope that like, I hope you listen regularly and you leave it with a principal objective. Like I hope like us talking about why we like the idea of principal objective for us and for this podcast, like is the same reason I would love it for whoever's listening. Is like, I hope every time it's like, here's one thing I'm going to change to get 1% better. Here's one thing I'm going to change to actually start bringing these conversations into my actual life. Because I think if we can partake in that together, then we're actually journeying somewhere together. It's not just a thing I do to fill my time or distract myself from the things that matter in my life. It's something that becomes a supplement to the things that I know that matter in my life. And I think that's my hope. And hopefully too, like just any of the areas where in building men's community, which all of us have been doing for the better part of a decade, like hopefully some of the pitfalls we found that we get to talk about and some of the arguments we've had that we get to talk about will keep people from finding the same stumbling blocks. Like that's always the hope, is that whoever listens goes further faster, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's no reason for us not to share where we failed immensely and then where we've subsequently succeeded, so the other people don't have to fail to succeed but can succeed. And then when they fail, the next person they're empowering moves the ball forward from there. So any last thoughts?
I love it. Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time.
Agreed.
I know that.
Yeah, agreed. So. Okay. So we got we have a different.
And the Chiefs are going 3 straight. Come on, right here.
Listen.
Don't do it.
No, they are. Shut up, fan. Joe Burrow sucks.
I'm a Browns fan.
I think he might win the MVP this year.
No, he's not. He's got a broken wrist.
I'm a Browns fan through and through. I want the Chiefs to go 3-0. I think we need a great. I think we're hungering for a great.
I think it's just because you don't want the Bengals are the.
Well, the Bengals can't make it. So that's not even. They're not even in the conversation.
Who do they even have?
You don't think they'll make the AFC Championship?
No,
they will not.
We might need to put some money on that.
No,
I would put money. We are on camera.
Who's going to make it instead? Ravens.
It'll be Chiefs, Ravens.
Bills. Who's going to make it instead of the Bengals?
Chiefs, Ravens, bro. It's going to happen again.
It is going to be Chiefs, Ravens.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. You got Derrick Henry.
I know. I mean, it's a good pickup. At the end of the day, I don't trust Lamar as much as I trust Joe.
I don't trust Lamar.
I trust Joe more.
I like Joe.
But I get it. I do think that's going to be the AFC Championship.
You know what we can all agree on?
My gut is
that Mahomes is going to.
You know we're all going to agree on here.
What's that?
Ohio State is going to win the national championship.
I don't know.
Really why are you not going? Why wouldn't you?
I just don't care. I mean, I can't agree with that. I just don't care.
Ohio State,
but it's true.
It is okay. 2016 when they lost to Clemson was the best team that I think has existed in my life.
2019.
This is Modern Man, guys.
I'm talking Ezekiel Elliott's senior year.
Modern Man.
You think that was better than Justin Fields?
Are we going to try?
Ooh, good question. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you're right. We should move. But I think that this year it's one of the top 3.
Why not?
That's great.
I said I'd agree.
You're going to watch every game.
Awesome.
Are you going to watch every game with us this year?
Sure.
I'm glad we've launched this. We'll keep talking about Ohio State, talk about Patrick Mahomes sparingly, and then and move it
forward.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Joe Burrow.
Come on, guys.
All right. Bleached head.
Yeah, blondie.
Looks like a psychopath.
Perfect.
Psychopath.